Hi, and welcome to A Chat with Myself, an informal ritual space in which I chat with myself and you may chat to yourself at the same time. Today I decided I'll be cozy a little bit, so I am under a duvet. Living now, living in the now. What does that mean, living in the now? It's very tricky, isn't it, to live in the now? Because we heard that concept a lot, I feel, right? The importance of not stressing too much about the future, not worrying too much about the past, because there's only so much you can do about it, and focusing on the present. But of course, there's also the concept of getting ready, prepare, study, work, for the future, set money aside, save money, or, prepare yourself, get better at something that you want to become, like such as acting, of course, any craft or any, business, any sort of work that you might do or anything that you're passionate about. You want to become better and better, right? So you have a goal which is in the future. So this is obviously in contrast, isn't it? It's clashing with the concept of living in the now. Because if we live fully in the now, then we should live our life in a completely different way. Like completely disregarding any sort of preparation, any sort of even work. Because if you live in the now, why would you work in the now? Unless that's, something that you're 100% passionate about and there's nothing that you dislike about that. And there's really zero other things that you'd like to be doing right now, but that's very unlikely. I feel in most cases, even acting, which I'm 100% passionate about, of course. I love acting, but it's got its downsides. Not everything is, so beautiful about acting as a business, as a line of work, and so it's like, would I want to do that all the time? Well, that's kind of what I've done for a long time. And I feel that at one point I was like, actually, this is too much. And I think I got that at one point. I remember I was recently living in London. I remember that it was quite helpful for me to take my mind off it, because it was just too much. The looking for auditions and the rejection and getting ready and doing the headshots and the showreels and this and finding agents and then, oh my God. And if your life is all about that, then it becomes really stressful as well, because it's like, especially in the acting industry, because it's so unstable. It's so tricky because you feel like constantly you're looking for a job and you're not finding any. Even when you are, it doesn't last long, does it? And so you're constantly looking for a job. So I remember that was too much. And so what I did was actually finding something completely different, like a side job, like a day job. And that was working as a customer service agent. And I actually enjoyed it. I, activated a completely different part of my brain. With that. And it's interesting, it's actually fascinating how I found that job, because I wasn't looking for that specific job. I was like, literally, let me just find a job, anything, just to pay my bills. Don't be too stressed about acting at the moment. I will do that as well, of course, but, not 100% of the time. And then that helped because I wasn't thinking about it when I found that job. And actually, when I went for the interview, I was actually going for a sales position, which I probably wouldn't have enjoyed, to be honest. I was just like, you know what, I'm going to go to the interview. And then when they realized that I could speak 3 languages at the time, they offered me another position, which was customer service agent instead of sales, and it was a much bigger account, and it was so much better, and it was so great actually, because I met so many people, all internationals. And what was so great about this company was also that we were all creatives, actors, because you could also get away from your job to go to an acting job, for example. If you had it, or an audition, they would let you go. So this was like super flexible, and I really enjoy that about London, that you can find these sort of places. So that was really good for me, but I spent so much time there, actually, the first year especially. But I enjoyed it. It wasn't bad for me, like it wasn't like, I'm doing this job and it's like, but I'm not really acting enough. I was actually happy of doing that because it was taking my mind off the whole, oh my God, acting. I had an agent at the time. It was actually quite a good agent, officially, had a good name. But, they were sending me auditions at the beginning, and then it started being less and less and less, and they weren't really that helpful anymore with me when I was trying to talk to them about it. And so I was quite stressed, I remember, and I was quite frustrated. And then, I found another agency, and I kept working in this place for about a year, I would say about a year and a half. But mostly the first year was quite intense. Then I started realizing, okay, I don't want to do this as a career, so why am I still here, right? But that was really helpful for me, because actually that's when I realized, well, I want to have something else that's not just the acting business, because it's too unstable, it's too tricky to just do that, unless obviously you're super busy all the time. But for me, I wasn't. And also I was recently in London, which is a completely different place from where I was before, which was Italy. So I was in Rome before. So it's like, it's so intense, everything. You have to realize who you are. So it's also about realizing what phase you're in. It's so tricky, obviously, because now looking back, I can tell I did the right thing. But in the moment, it's not that easy to realize that when you're doing the right thing. I remember that I was pretty good at that. I think I've been pretty good about, living in the moment since my, I would say, early 20s, mid 20s. So I was actually really good at that, to be honest, all things considered. Because this is one thing that you do have to realize. It's so tricky. It's so tricky to be able to do that, to realize, look, right now, what I need is chill, It's one of the things that, especially as actors, I feel, or even any job that is like very intense for you, we sort of forget how much toll it's taking on us, and that we need low time, chill time, low time to low. When I say low time, I mean feeling low, like feeling blue, and that's a different thing from chilling, actually. But it's also important, actually. But that's something else, has to do with, managing different emotions. I think I talked about that in a different chat. Or if not, I will. I also realized that I'm not just talking about relaxing here. I'm not just talking about chilling when I say, find a day job. That's not relaxing. That's working. But for me, that was really good, because it was like interacting with a part of my brain that otherwise would have been super busy overthinking about something that is supposed to be creative, it's supposed to be fun, it's supposed to be something that stimulates me, something that I enjoy. We're talking about art, we're talking about craft, we're talking about, something that shouldn't be so stressful. And this is the problem. When you choose, an art form as a job, as a career, as a profession, then it becomes also stressful for you. Especially, if it's unstable, as they usually are. And so, and acting specifically involves a lot of rejection, of course, and it involves a lot of asking for jobs and need of approval, being seen. Am I good? Am I doing well? Asking other people's opinion. And we forget to ask our own opinion, because we tend to go, I don't know, let me ask everyone else. Let me ask directors. Let me ask other actors. Let me ask writers. Literally anyone, casting directors, anyone in the street. Did you like that scene? You know, my friend, did you like that scene? Somebody who I don't know. Hey, you total stranger, did you like that thing I did? You know, and it's like all these people's opinions are more important than mine, than my own opinion. We are not objective. We're not taught to be objective, or we don't learn to be objective because it's really tricky about ourselves. You know, if you watch your own self-tape, especially at the beginning, if you're a young actor, it's not very easy, is it? Or at least it wasn't for me and many people I know, to judge if I was good. Which now I learned because, long story short, after the moonlighting day job as a customer service agent, I actually realized, well, let me do something that I really want to do that it's not acting, but it would help me a little bit more stable, and that's coaching. So I became a coach because that's something that I actually wanted to do, and I had it there in the back of my mind since my coach told me that I could have done that ages before. Well, not ages before, many years before, a few years before. And then, so I started doing it, and I realized that I was really good at it. I was really passionate about it. And then, you know, I really loved engaging with people and help them to become better, not just as actors, but also as people. So that's been part of my journey, of course. And it's been beautiful. And so that, you know, that day job transitioned into another day job, let's call it, which is my own business as a coach. And that's really, really cool. Of course, it's also not super stable and it's very much connected to acting, and it's also creative, but I get to spend time with people that I tend to like, that, you know, we have sort of the same mindset, and even when I do corporate work, that's also very exciting because I get them to feel better about themselves typically, and you know, to help them to realize things about themselves and how they deal with people, and, you know, empathy and stuff like that. So it's very rewarding. I really love it. So I feel that living in the now is important because, you know, you kind of need to know that you're going somewhere. So you kind of I think you have to live in the now. At least my philosophy is live in the now, but have a general idea of where you'd like to go, which you can then review every now and again. You are in the now, but you're also looking a little bit at the future, and also sometimes looking at the past. So there's some looking, but most of the time we are in the now. That's more or less what I'm trying to do with my life. And I feel it's mostly working because I'm mostly happy. And things are mostly working out, you know, so I feel, as, you know, living in the Western society, unless you're a monk, you can't really live in the now, can you? 100% of the time. But looking at the past, for example, for me, I do this sort of check-in with myself. I think at least once a year I do that, if not, probably even more, probably twice. But I would say the main one is probably once a year. And then probably I do one more every, I don't know, let's say 5 years, although that sounds like it's a lot for me. It's probably less than that. I don't decide that, to be honest. It just comes to me because I think a lot about myself. I think a lot about, you know, how to be happy. And so, of course, that means having what I call existential crises quite a lot. It is what it is. It's the journey, right? It's my journey. And so looking at the past, what I see is that, yes, it's like, oh, I want to be an actor. I love that. And so I trained and I became better and better. And I became better and better at also seeing myself and understanding if what I was seeing was good or not. You know, was I good or not? How specific I was. You know, like what could I see through myself, looking at myself? That is something that, as an actor, I think it's helpful to learn. And then obviously when I became a coach, that helped even more. I had to look at other actors even more, be super specific about that. And so now when I look at myself, I almost don't see myself. I just look at an actor, and, you know, when I look at a film I've made or a scene, I'm just, you know, receiving the performance, listening, and I would give feedback normally, right? Like that's what I would do as a coach. So that's what I'm doing, you know? And I can tell that I'm pretty good at that now because, you know, my feedback tends to align now with, you know, directors or casting directors or people who watch my self-tapes, or even writers. Of course, my feedback is more specific. That's just because I'm very intuitive and because I know my craft really well. I'm just so passionate about my craft. I'm passionate about acting. And I'm passionate about coaching. And so that means that I become, you know, very specific about what I see when I look at acting. But all of this is to say that looking back at my own journey, where am I now? You know, life is now. What does that mean? How do we live in the now? Well, you do have to ask yourself questions in the now. And for me, that does involve the future and the past. Mainly the future. You know, mainly what do you want? What do I want to do? What do I visualize myself doing in the future? You know? But like my journey of discovery was realizing, and this was a long time ago actually, that I didn't want to be famous. I didn't care about that. It could happen. It could have happened at one point, but it wasn't something that I was looking for. It wasn't about, you know, making it in Hollywood movies or something like that. I wasn't really interested in that. I was really interested in European independent films, for example, which is why I decided to stay in Europe, stay in London for a long time. I realized I loved theater. And so I tried to do more of it. Where do I want to go now? Have you asked yourself that question? You know, obviously depends on, you know, your journey so far, your age. I feel like I'm at a point where I'm asking myself that question more, you know? Is that changed? I'm really enjoying, you know, coaching and the personal growth side of my coaching now. Doesn't mean that I don't love acting anymore. That's still my great passion. But everything became so intertwined now. Everything for me has to do with healing and growth. And so coaching is one of the ways that I do that. But in order to be, like in life, not everything is about work, right? Now I'm talking about work a lot because I feel like I'm that kind of person who's very ambitious and very disciplined, and, you know, when I want to do something and I'm passionate about it, I want to do it as best as possible, right? And so I try to, it basically becomes a profession. Same thing happened with this YouTube channel. You know, I was just looking at, you know, being more creative for myself, and then this happened. Not that this is work, but it is connected to my work, right? Because I'm an actor and this is public and everybody can see it. But But this is also me, and if you watched my other chats, at some point I talked about, I think in the very last one, I talked about how at one point in my life I stopped compartmentalizing. And I'm doing it less and less, I feel, or I'm trying to do it less and less, because it's actually quite good for me to do that. I'm just being myself, just with anyone, almost anyone, I guess. And so anyone who sees this can see me. But this isn't just about me. This is about you as well. Because I'm just a person who's going through life, and I'm just asking myself questions about life. It's just something that anyone can do, but not everyone does it. And I feel this is actually really helpful. It does leave you confused at times, but it does help me to ask questions, Sometimes I even find answers. Sometimes I don't. Many times I don't. But as I mentioned before in other chats, the main thing is about asking the right questions at the right time, rather than, finding the answers. We don't have all the answers. We need to ask the question right. And for myself, I'm feeling like I am on a journey of transformation. Exactly the same as I say that I do with my Method Campus classes. It's a journey of transformation. It's a transformation journey, and I feel this is happening to me too. Because it happens to everyone. It happens to me as a coach too. This past year, 2024, has been very good for me in terms of work, even though I've worked a lot in Spain for the first time ever. Working in a different country a lot, it went really well. I did so many things. I did shows, I did 3 plays, one of them written by me, 2 of them directed by me, but so different from each other. And I shot a film, a feature film I was in came out, which was really cool, and we did the premiere in a film festival in Barcelona. There's so much going on, plus other things, I got married. So the where do you want to go question kind of changes when you get to a point where you're happy and you're doing the things you like. Although I would want to do them better, don't get me wrong. And I'm sure you would too, probably, if you're still listening to this. And you're probably that kind of person too. How do we live in the now? How do we get better at doing stuff while we live in the now? How do we plan for the next great work that we're going to do, the next great phase of our life, if we don't think about the future? How can we do that? So I feel, for me, this maybe is one answer that I'm offering, but I'm not sure it's the answer, obviously. It's sort of an answer with a question mark. As I said, is about living the now, but with sort of a glimpse at the future, and sometimes a glimpse to the past as well. And living in the now, in this sense, means realizing sometimes that you might be a new person. Your objectives might have changed. and so maybe I wonder whether it's my turn to realize that. Being an actor is not the priority anymore. I am an actor anyway. That's not going to change. But who am I if I'm not an actor? It's important to ask yourself questions that are challenging, to come out stronger, to grow. It's important to take care of yourself, to relax, to know that it'll be okay. One of the most powerful quotes I found on the internet years ago, it really resonated with me, was I was just literally scrolling and this just popped up for me and I was like, whoa. And that sentence was, "You're not in control and you never were." And for me, this has been so liberating. I still repeat it to myself every now and again. Some people find it really disturbing and hate it, but I love it because I tend to try and control so many things because I feel like I'm behind all the time. And that has to do with my past, of course. You know, it has to do with my unfulfilled need of approval from when I was a child. And so I feel like I constantly have to work to be better, to be a worthy, human being. And then I'm fighting that too because I know that that's not fair, that that's not right. And all I want is to live a full life and be happy, and treat people well, and be treated well. That's what I want, isn't it? And I think that's why I'm an actor, actually. I'm a truthful actor, which means I'm an expert in human behavior, which means I have to look at myself a lot. I have to look at my life. I have to look at my doubts, my shadow. But then I also have to relax, to chill. I also have to believe in myself and make sure things will go well. It means that I should also relax, I'll do what I can. How's this for a New Year proposition? Do your best. Don't go crazy, Alexander. Don't think you always have to be better than what you were before. I feel that that's sort of a lie that we've been sold. And we always have to improve ourselves. I think it's good to improve ourselves to the right degree. So most people don't do that, to be honest. They don't work on themselves. So yeah, those people should work more on themselves, for sure. But if you're one of those people who do work on themselves a lot, then there's a point where it's too much. You have to also process things and wait and give yourself grace, use self-compassion. And remember, you're just a human being who's living their life. That's living in the now. Sometimes. Just sometimes it's not very easy. But that doesn't mean it's not rewarding and truthful. And so eventually I feel that you reach a fuller happiness because you asked yourself the right questions all along. So you actually know more about yourself. And when you do get to a point where you're happy, you can say that with joy, with knowing that it's true. That's what you feel. There's no doubt in your mind. Oh, there is, maybe, but it's not that. You accept, you embrace the fact that there's doubt in your mind, because that's life. You know, accept the transformation, even though it's scary. That's what I feel like I should end this with. And see where it takes you. Embrace the journey. Life can be so intense, painful. But you can find the joy in the little things. And hopefully get to a point where life is not so painful anymore and you find the joy in the big things as well, you know. Wherever your journey is at, I feel like you have to listen to yourself and breathe. So, thanks for watching and or listening. I hope you enjoyed this chat. And if you did, please like, share, and subscribe to my channel.